All right, so today we're diving deep into the aftermath of Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, a deep dive.
And, you could talk about wind damage, you could talk about all kinds of things. But if you had to just pick one image, just one, to sum up what's going on,
Okay.
there's this picture,
Yeah.
it's just stuck in my head, of a boat, just a regular boat,
Mm-hmm.
sitting on a road in Port Charlotte. Like, that's where Milton drove it.
That's incredible. Yeah, it really speaks to, I mean, we're seeing it all over, right? Wind damage, flooding. I mean, just the sheer scale of it.
It's huge.
It's a stark reminder, I think, that even a state like Florida, we're used to hurricanes. We know what's up.
Right. We get ready every season.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But even with all that, nature has a way of reminding you who's really in charge.
Yeah. I mean, just the numbers, for starters. At least 6 confirmed dead.
Right, and that number could go up, sadly.
It could, yeah.
Yeah.
Millions without power. And it's Florida, right? So it's not just like, oh, the lights are out. It's the heat.
Right, no AC, no fans even.
And we're talking a huge chunk of the state, right? This isn't just a localized thing.
No, widespread impact. And, beyond the immediate stuff, the flooded homes, the downed power lines.
The things you see on the news all the time.
Right, but there's that other layer, the human cost, the anxiety of not knowing when you can go home, the sheer work of rebuilding, the emotional toll. That's going to linger.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the numbers, but you're right. They each represent a whole story. Like, take the Tampa Bay area, over 11 inches of rain.
Saw that. I was amazed. That's not even rain. It's like,
It's wild.
yeah, it's just a deluge.
Turn streets into rivers, basically. And then you hear about a 14-year-old rescued after clinging to debris in that flood.
Oh my gosh, so that's terrifying to even think about.
It's scary stuff. And this is all while crews are still out there doing water rescues.
Still ongoing, yeah. It shows you the power of this storm. I mean, Tampa Bay is a developed area.
Yeah, you think they've got it handled.
Right, but this is nature we're talking about, no guarantees.
And here's something else, right? Milton didn't hit in isolation. Helene just tore through the panhandle.
Back to back, wow.
So imagine getting hit by Helene, starting to pick up the pieces, and then bam, Milton?
It's like a 1-2 punch.
The recovery's got to be so much more complicated now.
Yeah, you're trying to rebuild when you're still patching holes from the last storm. I can't even imagine.
And then you've got places like St. Lucie County, hit so hard, 4 confirmed deaths. And that was from the tornadoes, before Milton even made landfall.
Really?
Yeah. So that's before the hurricane even hit. Just goes to show these storms are unpredictable.
Absolutely. Dangerous even before they reach the coast. It makes you realize, people hear storm surge and they think, okay, big waves, right?
Right, lots of water.
But it's more than that. It's the ocean itself being pushed onto the land by the hurricane.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That force, that's what caused a lot of those floods in St. Lucie County, elsewhere too.
See, that's what I mean. We hear these terms, but until you see it, Milton's really driving it home,
Yeah.
This is what that word means. This is the distraction.
Absolutely. It's like, we know hurricanes are dangerous, but then you get something like that crane collapse in St. Petersburg.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was crazy.
On top of everything else, right? Just falls right onto the Tampa Bay Times building.
Would you imagine?
Thankfully, nobody heard, but it makes you think, what else haven't we thought of?
It's like a wake-up call.
For sure.
And it's not just the cities, right? Think about the folks on Sanibel Island. Still cut off, no power, roads are impassable, they're surrounded by water.
It's got to be incredibly stressful, just waiting, not knowing when you can go back.
Or even if, right? Is home even going to be home?
Exactly. That's the psychological part that people forget. That limbo, it's disruptive, it's scary. Even if your house is fine, it's still a lot.
You need mental health resources for that, almost as much as you need, the physical rebuilding.
Absolutely. It's all connected. And that's why it's so important to see those stories of, people coming together, like the National Guard. They're all over. You're doing rescues, getting supplies out.
It's pretty amazing. You see it every time.
Right. Neighbors helping neighbors, complete strangers sharing food, whatever it takes.
People just snap up.
It's like the best of humanity right alongside the worst of the storm. Like those restaurant owners in Safety Harbor, I read about them.
Oh, yeah. What was their story?
So during Helene, they were feeding people, right? Providing meals for anyone who needed them.
Wow.
And now they're the ones who need help.
It's like it comes full circle.
It really shows, we're all in this together, especially in a place like Florida.
Right. What affects one affects everyone.
Exactly. And that shared fate, it can be a powerful thing. It makes you want to help, to rebuild together.
And we're going to need that because rebuild is the key word here. We're
Right.
talking billions in damage, industries impacted. This isn't over when the wind stops.
Not even close. The ripple effects, we're going to be feeling this for months, probably years, to be honest.
It's a long road ahead, that's for sure. And, you mentioned ripple effects. Airports, for instance, Tampa International, Orlando International still closed down.
Still. Wow. Yeah, that's huge. People think, oh, delayed flight, what a pain. But this is different.
Totally. This is supply chains, food, medicine, everything that's got to get in and out.
Exactly. And it's not just the stuff we need, it's the stuff that Florida relies on to function. Tourism, for one.
Ah, right. Huge industry for the state, all those cancellations.
Bookings down the drain, uncertainty about when things will be back to normal, it's a blow.
And then there's the more immediate stuff, like the millions still without power. I mean, no power in Florida. In October, that's not just an inconvenience.
No, it's dangerous, especially for vulnerable people, elderly, kids, anyone with health conditions.
Right. It's the heat, the food spoiling. It just adds this whole other layer of stress.
And stress is the thing, right? It's not just the damage you see, it's the invisible toll. That feeling of disruption, the anxiety about the future, that sticks with people.
It's like even when the lights come back on, the recovery isn't over.
Exactly. And that brings us to the big question, how does Florida bounce back from this? Two major hurricanes back to back, that's got to be unprecedented.
So where do you even start?
Well, there's the immediate needs. Housing, healthcare, economic relief. People need help now. But then there's the bigger picture.
You mean, how do you prevent this from happening again?
Exactly. This is going to force some tough conversations about building codes, infrastructure, how prepared Florida really is for these kinds of events.
Like maybe stricter rules for coastal development, hurricane resistant this, elevated that.
Possibly. Or investing in better early warning systems, more community shelters, things like that.
It's almost like, as awful as this is, it could be the push for change that was needed.
You have to hope so. Because one thing's for sure, hurricanes are a part of life in Florida, but maybe, just maybe, we can learn to weather them better in the future.
A lot to think about. Well, for anyone listening, stay informed, stay connected to your community, and if you can, find a way to help those affected by Milton. Every bit makes a difference. And beyond that, let's use this as a wake-up call to really think about disaster preparedness for ourselves, for our communities. Because as we've seen, even in the face of devastation, there's incredible resilience, a desire to rebuild, and hopefully to learn from what we've been through. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll be back soon with another look at a topic that matters. Until then, stay curious.